Hello, my name is Travis Newbill. I live and work here at Shambhala Mountain Center, where we're going to be hosting a retreat this coming August called Thoughts Are Not the Enemy. It's an introduction to Recollective Awareness Meditation. That's going to be led by Jason Siff, who is the developer of Recollective Awareness Meditation. That retreat takes place August 29th through September 1st. And today, we're fortunate to have Jason Siff here for some discussion. Thank you so much for joining us, Jason.
You're welcome. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So can you say a little bit about what Recollective Awareness Meditation is?
Well, what it is essentially is a form of Vipassana meditation that I really originally developed when I was a monk in Sri Lanka in the 1980s. And when I returned to the States in 1990, I started to teach meditation more. And what it is basically is a way for you to meditate with greater tolerance and acceptance of your thoughts and emotions. And also develop states of tranquility and awareness of breath, body sensations, and whatever else comes into meditation practice. So it's a very inclusive meditation practice. It would be considered a more open, unstructured form of meditation, though there is some, simple structure at the beginning of being aware of your body while you're sitting, while allowing thoughts and feelings into the meditation sitting. And the notion of recollection really comes from the experience of sitting with thoughts and feelings that if you try to notice them in the present moment, you may find that you're trying to manage them or do something about them instead of letting them go on. So this approach relies on developing awareness after the sitting more, so that you go through feelings and thoughts while you're meditating and then write them down afterwards, talk about your experiences with the teacher, and in that way you'll find that when you sit again with similar thoughts and feelings, you actually be more familiar with them and thus more aware.
So is that the piece that that really distinguishes it as a practice that has its own name, out of Vipassana, that afterwards you're actually writing down the thoughts that were occurring?
Yes, you're writing down what you remember, which may be just a small part of it, and that's one thing that distinguishes it, that it's not a practice based on in-the-moment awareness or present-moment awareness. It's more looking at, well, what do I experience when I meditate, when I really allow things to go on, and to develop awareness after the fact. And this definition of awareness being after the fact is actually found in the Pali discourses of the Buddha, where the word sati, which often gets translated as mindfulness, had an original meaning of memory, remembering what has gone on.
So you're saying that it's I was confused in that last answer where it's not about being in the present?
Well, the thing is, you come around to being in the present moment through recollecting your experience and becoming more familiar with it. But the initial orientation is not to try to stay so much in the present moment with things, because what will happen is when people receive those kinds of instructions of being in the present with their breath or body experience, they tend to stop their thoughts and feelings and not really go into what's going on in their minds. So often those instructions get in the way of awareness of thinking.
So when we're aware of thoughts and emotions that are arising, are we necessarily recollecting at that point? Is that an experience of memory or past?
Well, say in the moment, what will happen is if you try to be aware of your thoughts and emotions, you may find that you distance yourself from them a bit or try to hold them and go into them. You're changing the nature of your experience quite a bit. And so that may be useful in certain techniques, but in the long run, it doesn't translate so well when you're out in the world and you're hit by an emotion or a thought comes to you, that you may find that you can't really separate and look at it. But you can learn a way of being with it in its own form, its own dynamic, way of presenting itself. And that's what recollective awareness actually helps with. So it's a longer-term process whereby you start to become more tolerant and accepting of your thoughts and more aware of them, but you're not doing it with this notion that you have to separate or hold or focus on or contain your thoughts.
Okay, so say I am I'm eating lunch, having my food, and then I start thinking about how somebody was being really difficult to me in the office, and my thoughts are just sort of rolling on about that. And then I think, well, as a good meditator, I should stop that and just enjoy my food and keep cutting that off and enjoying my my tofu dish. How might that experience be informed? How might I approach that differently based on having practiced recollective awareness meditation?
Okay, well, let's change the setting to you're sitting in meditation, and you begin the meditation sitting, and instead of coming right to your breath or mantra or anything, you let that difficulty with your fellow worker come into your meditation sitting. And so in that instance, you would actually allow those thoughts and feelings to come in more and not be so concerned about coming back to your breath or your body, but just letting the sitting itself, the way you've intended to sit, the posture you've taken, the fact that you are meditating and you're not just say having lunch or a cup of coffee or something, that you're actually just going to take whatever is coming in your mind into a meditation sitting and start to look at it. So with that frame, you may start to find that the thoughts that you're having are, they're not necessarily going to go the same way they would normally, but they're not going to go all that different, so that you're thinking the thoughts, but you're also picking up things about them. You're probably also maybe even noticing how certain emotions come in and how they fuel those thoughts and why you're drawn into them and how attached you are. But you're not noticing that all the time. You're just coming up with these glimpses of what your experience with those thoughts are. And what tends to happen in this approach of meditation sitting is that because you're not trying to stop the thoughts, especially not trying to stop them immediately, you may find that there's less conflict with them. And they may not last as long or feel like they're as tumultuous as they would if you were struggling with them in a normal meditation practice.
So when did it, you say you started developing it when you were a Buddhist monk in the 80s. Was it experiences that you were having on the cushion, I guess, that inspired you to start relating to thoughts in a different way? Did you start relating to thoughts in a different way than your teachers were instructing you to?
Yeah, I go into this history quite a bit of my upcoming book, so it's a rather long story, but I think my experience was very similar to what most meditators will go through, is that with the initial meditation instructions you get to be aware of the breath and bring your attention back when your mind wanders, you start to find after a while you've stopped a lot of thinking, you've gotten quiet at times, but you also find that you have a low tolerance for thinking in your sittings. You really don't want your mind to be doing that while you're meditating. And so what I had to do is move to a place of first letting my thoughts in more, and as that happened, I found that I could be with the thoughts, but for only so long. I kept making bargains with them, negotiating, with certain thoughts, hoping that they would leave if I just gave them a certain amount of attention. But then I started to find that that actually wasn't a way for me to know my mind so intimately while I was meditating. So I moved in more in the direction of just really allowing thinking to go on, and uh, staying, how do you say, staying aware a bit of some of the themes that I would go into, some of the feelings associated with it, memories, intentions, and started to find that there was a lot to explore within my thoughts, and that it seemed to work better as a more inclusive form of meditation practice, one that could bring in everything that was going on inside of me. And at the same time, I was teaching others, but it was very hard to initially teach this kind of meditation, because what happens is that when you teach, you give someone an instruction, to open their minds to their experience, say, and then they're doing it as an instruction instead of, in a sense, staying with what they're experiencing and then talking about it afterwards. So that became an important part of this practice, is that I really saw early on, if you're going to have an open awareness practice, a lot of your awareness is going to come after the fact. And you may not be aware of everything that goes on, but you can recover certain experiences and describe them in unique ways. So an important part of this practice, too, is going into fuller descriptions around what you experience in meditation and not just settling for single word descriptions or labels for what goes on.
Is it ever... I think so many things go through my mind when I'm meditating that I guess that it would take some practice and maybe a shift of focus to actually start recalling all the things that had gone through my mind during meditation. How do you instruct people to start developing that capability?
Right. Well, for some people who have done practices of mindfulness or noting their thoughts or feelings, they might look at this as a form of noting that they're supposed to do it while they're sitting. And but I really suggest that you just get used to sitting with your thoughts and become just more kind and gentle with yourself as you meditate, and let the sitting flow and develop as it will, and then do the recollection afterwards, and write things down about what you remember in the sitting. And you're only going to remember a small fraction of it. It's highly unlikely you're going to catch all the things that are going on. And to start your recollection afterwards with what you remember most easily, and then write down what you might remember after that, and you might see that you start to fill in some of what went on. And in doing this way, the whole process of recollecting is much less stressful than if you try to do it in chronological order.
Mm-hmm. And so, you think people who already have established practices, this may bring something to their existing practice, as well as people who have never meditated before? This may be a really interesting or useful retreat, I guess.
Yes, I would have to say so. That's been my experience teaching for the last 25 years. That people who do have a meditation practice may find that this is a way to, kind of develop more openness around your experience, and to look at things that have been going on in your meditation sittings that basically have been obscured by some of the instructions you've been doing. Like if someone's just been focusing on breath or body sensations for much of their meditation practice, they may not have noticed how certain emotions are manifesting as moods, or how certain thoughts and intentions are coming about that they just don't kind of make an impact. So this approach often will bring in more things around what's been going on in your sittings. It is also helpful for experienced meditators doing this to let themselves go towards sleep a bit more when they meditate, and to explore some of those tranquil states that we often can get into but may try to wake ourselves up out of, because that's what the instructions have told us. And for beginning meditators, this is just a very kind, gentle way to begin a meditation practice. I think it's a very good entry into meditation. And if somebody starts this way, they may find that they can go into other meditation practices like awareness of breathing or the body and do those practices with little effort. You know, it won't be that much of a leap to go into them.
Cool. So is there anything else you'd like to say about the retreat in particular that you'll be leading at Shambhala Mountain Center this summer? What could people expect?
Well, one thing I want to, I guess, say that I look at this retreat, since it's my first one at Shambhala Mountain Center, it's just a weekend, as very much an introduction to meditation and to this approach. But I also look at the retreat as a place where people could come with whatever meditation practice they're doing and be able to explore that and talk about it. So I'd like to really meet people where they are in their meditation practice, and if what I'm presenting isn't exactly where you are, you know, this still might be an interesting retreat for you to come to hear me talk about different things that go on in people's meditation sittings, and to share some of your own experiences and hear some people's experiences. And so that's largely what the retreat will be about.
Great. Well, Jason, thank you so much for sharing all of this today and for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. Pleasure.
Looking forward to hosting you here later this summer, and I hope that all of you who are listening and viewing this, to begin with, thank you so much for tuning in. And also I hope that maybe you will consider coming up and joining this retreat. It sounds like it'll be a great one with Jason. And once again, it's going to be taking place August 29th through September 1st, and it's called Thoughts Are Not the Enemy, an Introduction to Recollective Awareness Meditation. You can learn more and register on our website, shambhalamountain.org, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you and you hearing and seeing us more soon. So, have a nice day.